Hey y'all, I'm Francesca Fuller. If you're watching this, you probably already know that, but if you don't, this video will be all about how I got started and how I have kept myself going in my health journey. Over the past year and a half almost, I have lost 50 pounds and have kept that off. And I say that first just because that's usually what people get, like their ears start to perk up when they hear how much weight people have lost. And so I know a lot of you watching this are wanting to lose weight, and so that's why I shared that first. I went from being a size 14 in like my jeans to a size 8, and then like shirts and shorts and stuff like that, a size extra large, and now all my clothes are pretty much mediums, some smalls. So that's just exciting. It's never been about the weight for me. It's always been about how I feel at the end of the day, or when I wake up in the morning, like how I feel. So that's really it's always been that for me. It's never been about how much I weigh. But I share that first because, like I said, I know that gets a lot of people excited. So, like I said, I'm going to talk about how I got started in this health journey. So I really want to emphasize on the fact that I'm not a professional. I'm not a professional trainer. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a doctor. I'm not licensed in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I'm simply sharing all of this because I have had so many inquiries. I've had so many people ask me what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, what did I do to get started, all these things. So that's the only reason I'm sharing this, is because I've had so many people ask. And really at the end of the day, the reason why I started sharing so much on social media is because I feel like what I have lived through and am living through can help somebody out there. And so if I just help one person at the end of the day, at the end of my life, if I have just helped one person, then I will have a job good done. And that's how I feel about it. So, but I'm not a professional. So I have notes down here, so that's why I'm looking down, because otherwise I'll be like chasing white rabbits all day long. So to keep this video like to the point, I have notes. That's what I'm looking at. How did I get started? The first thing is I truly have been doing this for a lot longer than the past year or so. So when I found out that I was pregnant with my first child, Madden, I started reading all sorts of information about health and food and just all kinds of stuff, because I was pregnant and I had never been pregnant before and I didn't know what to expect. And I've always, since I found out I was going to be a mom, I just wanted to be the best I could be. And so I just started reading a lot about food and health stuff when I was pregnant with Madden. So I've been on this health journey for a lot longer than the past year or so. The first article I came across was about artificial colors. And then shortly after that, I started learning about chemicals. Artificial colors are chemicals, but I started learning about other chemicals that are in foods and in products that we use on a day-to-day basis. And shortly after that, I was introduced to Whole30 for the first time. And if you follow me on any platform, you know that I am a avid believer in the Whole30 program. It is life-changing if you allow it to be. Whole30 is not a diet. It is not a way to lose weight, although a lot of people do lose weight by following the Whole30 lifestyle. But Whole30 is not a diet. It is a lifestyle change, if you allow it to be. So all of those things sort of happened around the same time in the years of 2015 and 2016. I became pregnant late 2014, and then so 2015 it was I quit working in March, and so I was just like a couch potato while I was pregnant. But I was also digesting so much knowledge about food and health stuff. So I just thought that was important to share, that I have not just been on this health journey for a year. I've been doing this a lot longer than that. Fast forward to last January 2019. I'll just preface this by saying, and if you have been following me for quite some time, you've probably heard some sort of this in some shape, form, or fashion. So I had just gotten to a point in my life where something inside of me had just become like really, really dark. And I had had a lot of life stuff happen to me. And I realized that I didn't like the person that I had become, honestly. And it takes a really strong person to say that. And honestly, if you would have come to me a year and a half ago, or even, I don't even know. If you would have come to me when I was like finding this out, I don't know if I would have been strong enough to say I don't like the person that I am. But I can say that now because I'm beyond that and I am better and all of those things. But I realized that last January, I realized that I just didn't like the person that I had become. And so I just started praying a lot. I prayed all the time, like throughout the day. This was probably around the time that I did the 40-day prayer challenge for the first time. If not, it was shortly after. And in that, it talks about praying like just never ceasing. And so I started praying a lot more than I was. And I did that. And then I read a book. And this book, y'all, a friend of mine gifted it to me. Shout out, love you, Crystal, aka Boob. Anyways, she gifted me this book for Christmas. God is Able by Priscilla Shirer. Y'all, that book changed my life. And while I was reading that book, I got off of social media, like completely off social media. I even deleted the apps for my phone. And like, honestly, like the days after, I would like open my phone and go straight to the spot where that app used to be. So it took me about 3 days before I realized like that's not on my phone anymore. But that just shows you like how trained we are for social media. Not that I believe social media is bad at all, because I do not. I believe social media is a beautiful tool that we can use to reach thousands of people. But yeah, that's another topic for another day. So I got off social media and I read the book, God is Able. Changed my life. It changed my perspective on life. It changed my attitude about being a wife and being a mom. Because if I'm, just being honest, like gloves off, I never wanted this life. Like if you knew me in high school or the years to follow that, I was very verbal about how I never wanted to be a mom or get married. And God just, we plan and God laughs. And so becoming a mom was not my plan. If you know me or follow me at all, Zach and I were living very unconventional lifestyle, and a baby happened. Not to say that we were taking all the that's neither here nor there. I just was not prepared nor planned. It was not planned. And so a couple of kids and a husband and years into that, and I have not worked since I had my first baby. And so I just didn't like the person I become. And truthfully, I didn't know who I was supposed to be inside this life. And so it took a lot of like soul searching and like figuring out things and just realizing like God has gifted me this beautiful life, and I may not know exactly what I'm supposed to do with it at this very moment, but I can be happy about it because it is so beautiful. And so that book and just getting off social media really allowed me to focus on myself. It allowed me to pull those things out of myself that I wasn't happy about or proud of, and it allowed me to figure out how I could change and edit things that I was doing that I actually have control over, like my attitude and what I'm eating or what I'm doing. And so during that time, I really just focused on what I could do to be better, to be better for myself and for the people around me, right? And so I did several like personality tests. The one that stood out to me the most, and still to this day, if anybody asks me, I send them to this. It's called the Enneagram. I'm terrible with spelling, but I'll link it in the comments below. Enneagram. If you haven't heard about it, there's a book that goes with it, but there's several like free tests you can take online. I suggest downloading the app and just paying the small fee for the full version, because then once you have it, you can take it on there, and then like your spouse or your mom or whoever you want can take it on your app. And it's very detailed. It tells you so much about like who you are and why you are the way that you are, and like just so much. So I like highly suggest doing something like that. And the other thing that I did, and I highly suggest doing something like this too, is called the Gallup Strength Finder test, and I'll link that in the comments below too. But those two things really just helped me to learn more about who I am, and maybe some of the things that I don't necessarily understand. And so those were really like crucial. Okay, I'm turning the page on my notes. So I'm human, I fail, I have disappointments, I have shortcomings. But something I learned in Mary Kay is your attitude determines your altitude. And if you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, then you're probably right. I'm gonna say that again. Your altitude determines your attitude determines your altitude. So if you have a good attitude, you're probably gonna reach pretty good success in life, right? And then the other thing, if you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you're probably right. Again, that really goes back to your attitude on life. And if you wake up daily thinking, I'm not going to do this, or I can't do this, or I'm going to fail, then chances are you probably aren't going to do it, and you are probably going to fail. And so when I had that like realization, or like I made myself remember those things, I remembered like I'm the one who controls my happiness, right? And so I made a decision like sometime in the beginning of 2019, and I just started putting everything I knew to do into practice. And then another thing I did was I reached out to people that have lived life, before me, and like how to like navigate through that, for guidance, and then I just really started focusing on myself, mind, body, and spirit, doing all the things that I could do to help myself be the best I could be for myself and for the people around me. And then also not allowing myself to like be knocked down for too long on if I did fail, or if I didn't meet a goal, or, whatever. Journaling, that's another thing I started doing again, like really hardcore. I've always journaled for as long as I can remember. Every counselor I have sat down in front of has told me to journal, and it really does help me just process my emotions and my thoughts. It helps me get through things more efficiently, and just like really get out like how I'm feeling. And that stuff is important. Like that is your mental health, and that is so important. And people ask me all the time, how did you start this? How are you doing this? How are you keeping up with this? And that's because I really do focus on my mental health first and foremost. Like I have a spouse that is super supportive, and I'm very grateful for that. And he is helpful in a way that I can focus on my mental health. And y'all, like, I stress about that so much on my social media because it is so important. And I'm a completely different person when I don't focus on it, And so it is so important. So journaling, even if you don't like journal to write down your thoughts and stuff, one of the things that I started doing at the beginning of last year was a gratitude journal. And I just had like my calendar. I wish I would have set it over here so I could show you, but like the day by day, like in your little planner, I would just write day by day 3 things that I'm grateful for. And that's simple, but also it can be challenging some days, especially when you're a stay-at-home mom who doesn't get to get out much. Some days I would write like, I'm thankful for coffee and cake and my husband coming home before bedtime, like the kids' bedtime, you know what I'm saying? So some days it's some days are harder than others, but that's a super easy way to like get started journaling, is just write a gratitude journal. And then as I go in deeper and deeper to this, I will talk more about a food journal, but food journals are so important, especially for people who are new to the health food world. You will learn as you start eating healthy that there are going to be foods that affect you negatively. And then there are going to be foods that you notice help with your mood and help with your energy. And so by writing that in a food journal, you will be able to like look back and know like, oh, well, for me, I ate cabbage this morning and I realized by lunchtime I was extremely bloated and my stomach hurt. And there's so many different foods. There's so many different varieties of foods. And they all affect us differently. And so that really goes back to the point, at the beginning I said so I said two things, that it all starts with me, right? Because I'm in control of my happiness. I'm in control of how my attitude is and what I'm eating and what I'm doing. So those are the things I control. So that starts with me. And then the other thing I said was there's no one size fits all, because there's not. And like, I want to emphasize on that so much, because I'm going to write in detail what I have in my pantry right now. Like I have a list, like what do I shop? Like when I go, like what do I buy when I go shopping it? And I literally I went through my pantry and like wrote everything down for y'all. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you need to buy. There is no one size fits all, because there's so many different foods. They all affect us differently. There's so many different workouts, and they all can help us in different ways. Or, some people may not be able to do yoga, like yoga. Let's just go with yoga, because yoga is amazing. And I will talk a lot about that. And there are yoga moves for every person. And then there are certain yoga moves that certain people will not be able to do. Maybe they have a back injury, or maybe they had like a rod put in them some way that doesn't allow them to bend a certain way. That's okay. But that's what I want y'all to realize, that no matter how much I share or write down what I'm eating or whatever, you got to figure out what works for you. And so that is why I talk so much about Whole30, because Whole30 really teaches you it teaches you how to have a healthy relationship with food, but it also teaches you to be mindful of what you're putting in your body and how it's affecting you. So, excuse me, let me grab some water. I control my happiness, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to stay on point so I don't, journaling everything. Oh, okay. So you do need a support system. So I talked about my husband. So Zach is amazing. And then I have a pool of people around me, a community of people around me that are supportive. And I cannot stress how important that is for you to have. But I also want to say that sometimes it's not going to be the closest people to you that are going to be the most supportive, and that's okay. So around, I want to say it was when I was pregnant with Della. It might have been after. I don't know. I joined a mom group, and there are women that come out of that have just like impacted my life so positively. And I don't think I would be the same person I am today without them. And so I cannot stress how important it is to find somebody, a group of people, to be in your corner and to support you. But in the same breath, you got to do this for yourself. There is no person on this planet that you're going to be able to do this for and be successful. And I say that because like even your spouse, like Zach is my best friend, but I cannot rely on him to be in control of my happiness every day. Yes, he makes me happy and makes me laugh, and I love being around him, but I cannot rely on him for me to wake up out of bed and for him to make me happy. It is my job to make myself happy. And so at all this life stuff, all this get healthy stuff, all this fitness stuff, all of that, it's got to be for you at the end of the day. And so I started doing this because I didn't feel good. I did not feel good. I did not feel good mentally, Physically, I felt like shit. I just didn't feel good. And so I started this because I wanted to feel good. And then it turned into me, I wanted to look good, because I got to a point like I look in the mirror and I was like, bleh. And now I look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, girl, I see you. You know what I'm saying? And so it's got to be for you, you know, because it's just got to be for you. And that takes work. And that is the next couple of weeks. I want to share how I did that and how I stay motivated with that. But it's got to be for you. Another thing in your journal, like to stay on point and stay focused on you, is to write down affirmations. Man, I'm rolling. Okay, sorry, I gotta take a breath. And I'm like 20 minutes into this. I gotta hurry up. Blah, you can't do this for anyone except for yourself. So how did I find that, like, that balance, you know? Finding that happiness for myself, finding that motivation. So once I started praying more, I realized, really, I mean, this is another thing, gloves off, like rawness. I realized I'm supposed to be the embodiment of Christ. Like Christ tells us to, you know, emulate him, right? And so I just think about things like this now. Like, do you think Jesus was happy about being ridiculed or beaten or hung on a cross to die? Do you think he was happy about those things? Like, no. I mean, he even prayed in Gethsemane the night before, like, Lord, I hope this is not your will, you know, but if it is, let your will be done. You know, he wasn't happy about it. And so, no, I hate working out. I do not like working out. There are some days, and you can ask my husband this, and I just also want to say this too. I don't have like a hardcore workout every day. I don't. I'm not a CrossFitter. Nothing against CrossFit people, but I'm not that person because I do not enjoy working out. I'm working on running every day because I actually like to run. I like how I feel after I run, and I like how I feel after I work out. But my point is, like, I got to the brain space of like, well, Jesus wasn't happy about dying on a cross for me, but he did it anyway. He did it for the greater good. He did it for me. And so, like, me fueling my body properly and feeding my mind and my body and my spirit the right way, that is me being the best that I can be and doing, you know, like, those things help me feel good, so that makes me be the best person I can be for myself and for those around me. And just like the least I could do. And like, I freaking love chocolate cake, right? But the reward of 6 weeks of not having chocolate cake and looking in the mirror is so much better. And the mental clarity and the way that I felt and feel is so much better than that instant reward. And so it's a mind thing. It really is. All of that to say it's a mind thing. For your journal, any notebook will do. You don't have to have anything fancy. You probably have something in your house. I'm the type of person, when I start something new, I like to have a new journal. And if you're that person, I say go for it, because everything you're going to put in that journal is going to be growth mindset oriented. And so I highly suggest getting something to like write everything down in, what you're grateful for, what meals you are eating, your goals, your prayers, all the things. So yeah, that's really all I have on my notes, and I really didn't mean to talk this long, but I keep getting asked those same questions, and I just felt like I needed to put all of that in words in a video, because it's too much to like write out, you know? I'm really excited to share all the things with you guys, and if you have questions, ask them. I love input, so go for that. Thanks for watching. If you like this, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see y'all the next time. Please remember to be kind and spread happiness. Bye, y'all.